The nation is pausing to mark the 18th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Nearly 3,000 people were killed in coordinated attacks in New York, the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
This morning, the victims, survivors, and first responders were honored at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, which was built where the Twin Towers once stood. The names of those who lost their lives were read aloud. At the Pentagon, President Trump led a moment of silence before a memorial ceremony. And Vice President Mike Pence spoke at the Flight 93 Memorial in Pennsylvania.
Many ceremonies are being held across the country, including right here in San Diego. News 8's Ashley Jacobs joins us live from Coronado, where our first responders just held the moment of silence. Ashley.
Good morning to both of you. Yeah, those ceremonies will be taking place across the county today, including here in Coronado. We're at Fire Station 36, where that ceremony is just wrapping up. We have some video to show you from the ceremony that got underway around 6:50 this morning. Firefighters, military personnel, and police are gathered here today, and the moment of silence that they held after that bell ringing that you hear now lasted about 3 minutes. Now, that is the time that it took the South Tower of the World Trade Center Twin Towers to collapse. Now, later today at 8:46 a.m. there will be another ceremony happening in Balboa Park. That will be happening at the Veterans Museum located at 2115 Park Boulevard. Now, the USS Midway Museum will also host its annual 9/11 tribute ceremony, billed as the largest on the West Coast. That is happening at 2:30 this afternoon. Ceremonies will continue into the evening. The Padres will hold a salute to local first responders and a ceremony to honor the victims of the attacks during tonight's game against the Cubs. Now, if we can bring it back out here live for you throughout the morning, we will continue talking with first responders as we have all morning, including a chaplain who was one of the first to respond to Ground Zero to comfort the firefighters who are dealing with loss and fighting at the same time. Now, over here you see some children. They clearly were not yet born when this tragedy happened that all of us remember so vividly, but they are making thank you cards for today's first responders. And coming up in the next half hour or so, we will have tips for you on talking about the 9/11 attacks with children so that they know that they are safe today and truly understand the magnitude of this.
Yes, that conversation, it's just not an easy one, Ashley. We appreciate any advice we can get.
You know, here we are 18 years later, and you think of elementary, middle, high school, that's years 1 through 18, right? So now we have an entire school generation that was not around when this happened. And on this day, there's so much on social media to see, and so what does that conversation look like with the kids? You can't totally ignore it because they're going to see it,
right,
whether you'd want to ignore it or not. I plan on discussing this with my 8- and 6-year-old today.
I remember last year a teacher of ours discussed it with the children. I was like, oh, I guess I didn't realize we were going to sort of be getting these details quite yet. So maybe it is an opportunity to say something before somebody else does to your kid.
And in New York, the governor there just passed a law saying that they need to pause for a moment of silence in the New York schools and then follow it up with a discussion. So it's actually law in New York to have the discussion with the kids.
As it should be, because we should never forget.
Right.